Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. And it's a festive success in the city. My name's Helen Webster. I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our fabulous guest today is Pain Point coach
John Bullock.
Thank you, John. Thank you for giving your time up today to be with us. We're really super excited. Super excited that you're with us. Sandra, for weeks and weeks has wanted to get you on as a guest because you're an inspirational guy, and I've never met you. This is our first meeting, so I love it when this happens because I can get to find out loads more about people as we go along. But first, we have a little shout out to the little people, any kids who've done amazing things this week. So I'm going to start off and I'm going to say a great big shout out to all the kids who are on the nice list. Okay, and you need to stay on the nice list because you've got 2 more sleeps, and then you've got to stay on the nice list, and then hopefully you'll get loads of prezzies. And I think just with the year that we've had, I think all the kids have been absolutely amazing to keep on going and keep on going. And, you know, we do need to celebrate these things, and we need to celebrate like Christmas and get them as much happiness as they possibly can, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks. So let's really celebrate, and well done for staying on the nice list. San, have you got any little people you want to shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to give a shout out to Evie Joe, who's working through some hideous English program that has to be done, and there's just I sat with it. I just couldn't believe this work they've got to do for homework. So she's working her way through that now like a Trojan. So she's made a really good effort. So well done to Evie Joe.
Well done.
Shout out today.
And you, John, have you got any little people, young people?
Yeah, 3 people spring to mind. First of all, I want to cover everyone. You know, you just walk down the road and you see these musicians playing. It's whether you're in Manchester, Liverpool, wherever you go, in Southport, and you see them there. You know, there's some amazing talent up there. And it takes an awful lot of confidence of these young people. But they're getting up there and they're doing it. And you know, some of these are better than what you see on the TV, you know, and it's just a game of chance, isn't it? That door that opens. But when you listen to these people, the instruments that they play, absolutely phenomenal. So I think it's recognizing that there's some very, very talented people out there. And so I want to recognize them. And
Brilliant.
Secondly, my daughter recently just passed her driving test.
Yeah.
She's only 17.
Payback now for all the lifts that you've given her, John.
Yeah, so she should be able to pick me up from the pub now, shouldn't she? She'll be able to go out now and have a couple of drinks and say on the phone. But not with my daughter, she'll be getting her nails done or something. It just won't happen, you know. Anyway, so she's done that and she plays the saxophone. So I'm obviously absolutely, she's been amazing, especially, and the reason why I mention her, you know, because she's not had that end of school prom. I know it's a thing the kids do now. She's missed out now. She's got to 2 years college. She's not been there. I mean, I remember we all did getting into trouble that last day of school and things that we did or things that we shouldn't have done, you know, but we have things to remember. That's been taken away and denied from here. And all those rite of passage where we look back and we think about them now, it's gone. And I just, you know, I feel quite angry about it myself because I look back at those times now and I remember them fondly. That's been taken from her. So I want to, because she's been amazing, because she's kept up with the music, grade 8 musician. She plays the saxophone, so great. So I made up. So it was a positive shout out for my daughter, and then my son, who recently had a C-class Thai boxing fight, which is a big move up for him. And so it was 5 1.5 minute rounds. He got a 4th round technical knockout, and I was only a lightweight. So we sort of like that. We don't really hit one another, you know. But he's a lightweight. He's a big guy, you know, and he banged it that way, you know. And his commitment, we talk about mindset, what we're really talking about is commitment, but his commitment to what he did. I mean, before he was going to work, he was going for a run. He wouldn't come straight home, he'd go training, you know. And I always a great believer in, you know, if you do your work in the practice arena, when you get to the performance arena, it's just like a walk. And that's exactly what he'd done, the work in the practice arena, and he was more than qualified when he got it. It was quite superb, you know, and it was a fairly big stadium. It was at the Bramall Lane, which is the Sheffield United football club. You know, so it was a fairly big venue. You know, so yeah.
Well done.
Amazing, good shout out. Amazing. I love the successes when we've got young people who are just and we'll come on more about that of like, you know, commitment and mindset and stuff like that as we find out a little bit more about you, John. But successes for ourselves personally. Okay, so what personal success has happened for you this week? It can be anything, John. It can be going to get your hair cut. It can be going for a drink. It can be absolutely anything.
Well, I want to be seasonal and say a success for me was to go Christmas shopping. You know, I'm always reminded. My missus said, "So you're like him, bar humbug, like, you know." But she has this vision of choir singers and you know, chestnuts get warming up on an open fire. I just see lots of bags and people banging into one another, and it's cold. Anyway, so Joe, I've done it. I went out. The first one I really enjoyed because I spent the afternoon with my daughter. We went all around Liverpool, and then on the next day I went to Manchester with my wife. You know, we spent the full day there. You know, so I had a chance to go to visited a few pubs, but got the shopping done at the same time.
Well, that's the key. That's the key. Yeah. You let them have a few bevies as they go along, and then
absolutely.
You're interested. What about you, San?
Well, I've had a few really of simple successes, mine, but delighted with them. So I got my fridge freezer, which has just arrived. So John, because I moved in where I am now in September, and Helen organised a fridge freezer for me, like a small one that's been brilliant on sort of loan, if you like. But the freezer part was tiny, and I like to cook in advance and freeze and just take stuff out because I'm very busy. And I've been looking for one, and I got one, and it came today. So I'm delighted, and now it's got a really good freezer size, so I'm made up with it. So that's a little thing. Also, another success was I was made up. We did I don't want to tread on your toes, Helen. If you were going to talk about our Secret Santa in work, where not?
I am going to talk about that, but you can talk about that because
it was a bit of a success. Okay, so we did. Helen had a genius idea. So we did a Secret Santa in work, and we've got 4 young people who work for us in different capacities. 3, sorry, what the hell? So we've got 3 young people. I visualized the 3 of them when I said it as well.
We're talking about me, the 4th one, the young one.
3 young people who work for us. We said, right, one's just out of uni, the other 2 are younger. So we said, right, we're going to do a Secret Santa. And Helen said, just do £1 each. Let's keep it to £1 per person. So we find a funny or a gift for £1. And it was really good, you know. And they went to the pound shop. I went to Home and Bargain. And what we got, the presents were just so clever, weren't they? They were cleverly thought, and it was just dead good. And the kids loved it. No one was under pressure because it was £1 each. And so it was just brilliant, wasn't it?
It was more about when you go to work in other offices, and sometimes they'll do a Secret Santa and things, and quite a bit of pressure's put on people. And they're only young people. They're not earning a massive amount of money. So I didn't want to put any pressure, but I still thought if they did go into another environment, these things might happen. So I was thinking rather than do a Secret Santa per person, we'd just go. So last week we did a bit about paying money into banks and checks and things like that. So we took them to the bank, and because they don't know what a check is, and they don't never been into the bank to pay money in because they've never had to, because you just ping it on your phone now, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
And so then we went into the pound shop. So each one of us had to buy 4 presents. It was going to cost £4, and I'd said it'd be cool with, and they were all like, yeah, we're cool with that. But they had to be personal to that person. So you couldn't just buy 4 things. It had to be like something specifically for that. And it was brilliant. And they come up with some good little, and Emma come up with a great couple of jokey presents, didn't he? Like he bought you a tube of Pringles, eating all his Pringles and stuff like that.
I loved his Pringles. I just thought that was very clever. Very clever.
So it was brilliant, wasn't it? It was lovely. It was just lovely. And it was about wrapping them up, and because they're not used to sort of everything's done for young people, or most young people, everything's done for them. It's more about them taking ownership, that they have to think of other people and, you know, wrap them up yourselves. You can't get your grown-ups to wrap them up and all this sort of stuff. And I think they were a little bit like once the initial sort of like, what are we doing? It was a bit cool, wasn't it? We had, and then we went over to the Christmas markets, and that was my success, was going to be that we went over to the Christmas markets and we had our lunch out there. And a hot chocolate because we were driving. Yeah. Otherwise, we'd have still been there, I think, San, wouldn't we?
All right.
One of the booths.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think another success was you went to see it on Monday night, didn't you, Sandra? You went to see Dream Girls.
Yeah. We went to see it was just amazing at the Empire. My friend Marie Vickers took me and I went with her sister Claire, so that was lovely. That was like my Christmas present off me. And Dream Girls, what a fantastic performance. And this is how good it was. Half the theatre was standing at the interval with giving them an ovation. And I've never seen that before.
Oh, yeah, definitely a good sign. Definitely.
I think it's as you were saying, John, there's that much talent out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Better than on the telly. The girl who plays Effie was just apparently she was on X Factor, I think, or something. But when you were saying, it's that person when they get that chance or that door opens for them. She was unbelievable. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I got a bit emotional when she sang.
Absolutely, because it's always on my mind. Because with all these closed down lockdowns, and now they're taught it's affecting the West End and everywhere else. It's not. It's the actors, the actresses, the musicians. It impacts everyone. So the opportunity to get up for those people and to do those things, very, very important.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, so Tom's listening in from New Orleans, and he listens in, and he says, "I'm curious about. I'm going to do what you're all planning for your finale, like a highlight of 2021, and that's next week's show. Tom,
next week, and Tom, we have a glass of wine when we do that." That's the show where we have a little drink on the show.
Yeah, we had a little glass of wine last year, didn't we?
Yes, indeed, yeah.
Okay, so John's with us and we're going to play this or that. So I'm going to ask you and Sandra this or that. Sandra's going to ask me and you this or that, okay? So, Sandra, you going first? Am I going first?
I'll go first. John, okay. Beach or countryside? And I mean in our country, this is very relevant to what he does.
Beach.
Beach, okay. That's it, Hal?
Countryside for me. I love the beach, but countryside for me. Okay. What about you, Dan?
I love the beach, but in our country, the countryside.
Because it's too cold on the beach for you.
Right. Your go.
I've gone like a little bit way off here. Okay. Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan?
Oh God, that's. I'm of the age group. It would have to be Bruce Lee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you, Sam?
Bruce Lee. I'm fascinated, and the whole story of Bruce Lee as well.
And I'm a massive Bruce Lee fan, but I think Jackie Chan acting wise. Yeah, I think acting wise for Jackie Chan and the movies, sort of things that he's been in to inspire young children, I think he's more
absolutely,
more sort of like a role model for younger little people, like because they look and do all the funky things, and plus sort of special effects and things are so much better than when. But Bruce Lee is like, wow. I had a picture of Bruce Lee on my wall when I was little.
I think everybody did, but they were so different with the performance. I mean, Jackie Chan was so clever with what he did, and that just wasn't Bruce Lee's thing, No. I wouldn't. Both incredible people in their own way.
Yeah. Go on, son.
Okay. Sorry, I was distracted because Susie Kane's put a comment on, and I love Susie Kane.
Susie Kane puts, all made up to see John on this week. Have the best Christmas, guys.
Oh, Susie's my cousin, don't you, Sandra?
I never knew that at all, but you know what? It doesn't surprise me because she's an amazing human.
She's brilliant. She
wears our colours, yeah. She's just, and she's Christine Penman's Bezzy. As well, isn't it mental? I realize. Okay, sorry. So this or that. So, I noticed your cup, John. The Doors.
I'm a massive Doors fan. You know that. You know Stuart. I support Stuart and all that he does.
Stuart. Is Jim Morrison in this?
He is personified.
Yeah. He is so.
Yeah, he enjoys it, and I think that's the most important thing. What we were talking about before, enjoying what you're doing, getting up and doing it.
So, do you prefer the Doors or the Beatles, John?
Well, you put me right on the spot now. I mean, I love the Beatles, particularly John Lennon. But you know, the Doors. What can I say? It just hits that nail on the spot for me.
So I would have to say the Beatles, because they're just more prolific.
I would say the Doors.
And that.
I was a massive Doors fan when I was younger. Massive, yeah.
It's been with me, and funny enough, when we do beach boxing now on the beach, I put the music on, and whatever comes on, I'll just say to the girls or whatever, who was it, and they'll go, "It's the Doors, John."
And I've read the biography of one of the well, I suppose there's a lot of biographies. That I read a biography of Jim Morrison. It was just the most interesting thing. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
okay,
really
you'll go, Cal.
Oh, so I'm not being that exciting again. Okay, on your Christmas dinner, Yorkshire pudding or pigs in blanket?
Well, for Christmas Day, got to be pigs and blankets.
What about you, San?
Historically, pigs in blankets.
Historically, for me, pigs in blanket. Does a Yorkshire pudding belong on a roasting on a Christmas dinner?
No, well, it goes with beef, not turkey.
Yeah. I still think you can have one on your dinner.
I think my auntie used to do them.
Yeah. Okay, go on, San. Last one for you.
Okay. Last one then. John, cinema or theatre?
Theatre.
Definitely.
Yeah, we've all got that. Okay, my last one, being quite festive. I've been quite festive today. A sleigh ride or a skidoo?
I've done both.
A sleigh ride.
Yeah. What do you prefer, San?
Well, skidoos are brilliant, obviously.
Did you feel a bit James Bond?
No, because I lived in Canada, so everyone had one. The neighbours had them for getting out, because when we lived in the countryside, everyone had it. That's what you had quickly to get to the shop, if you like. That's like
we have them scooters now in Liverpool. You have skidoos in Canada.
Yeah, but so they were nothing to me. They were just there, you know. And I went on one in Lapland, but no, sleigh rides are just magical. We did a sleigh ride with husky dogs, and that was just amazing. Yeah,
you can do a challenge. You know, you can go across Greenland on a sleigh ride with huskies, and you take your own huskies.
That'll be a cold trip, won't it? All I do is moan about the cold, John.
Yeah, we've done all this, all that. And it's now over to you, Shan, to introduce John.
Okay, so I'm absolutely ecstatic that our last guest of the year, last but certainly not least, is John Bullock, who has his own company and describes himself as a pain point coach and helps people in so many ways. And I was just reading your LinkedIn profile before and thinking, what should I take out? But I'm going to take out how I know you. So John is a kickboxing champion, which just that alone is very interesting, his story about that and what he's done out in Thailand, training, etc. And he was a very, very successful entrepreneur in our city. There's nothing he doesn't know about property. He's also a qualified accountant. And now he has his own business, helping other people reaching their full potential massively, from young people to professionals to everything. So over to you, John, if you want to tell us a bit about your journey.
So, John, we've got about 30 minutes, 30-ish minutes, and we want to know everything in that 30 minutes.
I'll try and squeeze everything in, you know, in my whole 45 years, and throw it all in. And 45 years of work in life, I should say. And then, okay, we'll start with the kickboxing thing, because for me, that's where it all started off. You know, I mean, like a lot of people in my generation, I grew up in the Tulsa for 30 years. And then what happened to Liverpool, you know, and when there was no unemployment and it was so dark. And yet we used to go, and then every time we used to travel down to London to box, it always taught me that you'd go down there, you'd see all these pubs and restaurants, and they were busy in the afternoon. And I used to say things to myself, where did you get the money to do all these things in the afternoon? I don't know. You both of you probably too young to remember 1918.
I remember it well, John.
I don't believe that, Sandra. Not for one moment. And then, but it was so lively, and then you come back, and obviously the pubs would be open, but it just didn't have. It just seemed to have it was up another few tiers, with regards to what was going on, and it sort of really opened my eyes as to what was going on. And every time we went down there, my brother and I and the rest of the lads were doing extremely well every time we went down. And one of the things I always remember is that every time there was a fella down there used to train. He used to have movie stars, well, not movie stars, from people from EastEnders that used to train with him, and he used to have people that come in like some Madness and everything that used to train with him. Wow. So every time I finished boxing, Suggs from Madness used to invite me into his little place, and he'd insist on buying me a drink and everything like that, And I look back at those times now, and I think, I wish I'd had the confidence then to deal with the people I was meeting far better. I deal with it far better now. When I was looking at this fella, he was a fella that was regular on Top of the Pops. So I was thinking, what do you want to know about me for? And that, but I was very well treated with him, and it was always very positive with what we were doing and with the team and that, but he took a particular interest in me for some reason, which I'll never know why. I never got to the bottom of it, but we just did. But one thing led to the other, and I ended up fighting for the British over 5 rounds, lightweight, fighting in 1983 at the age of 19, fighting for the lightweight title, and and I won it. And I think from then on, the doors sort of really opened for me. The doors.
Yeah. How did you get into kickboxing, John? Because it's sort of Liverpool boxing is very, but kickboxing. How did you get into kickboxing?
Right. Well, what happened was we were doing jiu-jitsu, and karate and everything else. Like a lot of people, so we used to also do jiu-jitsu. We used to go to the Shotokan Karate in KB Sports Centre, and they had 2 hours of boxing before that, and then 2 hours of Shotokan Karate. The things that we do, anyway, a fellow called Toddy, Master Toddy, he's Grandmaster Toddy now, based in Bangkok. You will know him though, because in the movie, the man with the golden gun, and he bows down like that, and Roger Moore kicks the fella in the head. That's Master Toddy. And what he did, he came over in the 70s, and we were in Blackpool. We went to this, and he was using his shin, and he was kicking through baseball bats with his shin, and it was phenomenal what he was doing, so we ended up going down to Manchester, and one thing sort of just let's do, And of course, in America, they had a thing called kickboxing. So Thai hadn't really properly taken off, but kickboxing had. And we were trying to do kickboxing, but the Thai boxing really put it together for us, So the type of thing you would do was sort of punch and kick and maybe step back to throw a kick. But with Thai boxing, you get your timing, your coordination. It's done so fluently. And I think Toddy really, Master Toddy, really improved. Jeff and I, everyone, and really moved us forward. Without a doubt. So I did that. My last 34 fights. My last fight was in Miami, 1987. Yeah, and I ended up fighting on one of Mr. Marriott's shows, and. So we were fighting. I was boxing in his thing, and in his one of his tournaments in his hotel, and I had a fantastic fight that particular evening. And what had happened is the guy that I'd been boxing, I was meant to be fighting on the night, I pulled out, and said he got hit, and they had this heavyweight. He was a big guy, and he said to me, "Okay, do you want to move around with him?" And it was meant to be really sort of light, but you can tell when somebody's trying to take your head off straight away. And this guy was trying, for no reason at all, it was meant to be a demo. He was trying to take, he was trying to knock my head off, basically, And then, but they weren't doing kickboxing. They weren't used to low kick. And I always remember I low kicked him, and his leg turned in, and I looked at him for that. I mean, it must have been thousands of seconds, and I thought to myself, do I pull back off this guy now? And I thought to myself, no, because he's only going to come back. He's going to murder me. So just did exactly the same again. Took his legs, spun. Of course, with the spinning kick, and he went straight down. And then I had all HBO TV, so it was all televised over there. All come up to me and go, how did that little lammy do that? So I was getting sort of all that type of thing. And I ended up working for Mr. Marriott. I was running him around in his limousine. And he'd been to Liverpool. You recognise that accent. He'd been to Liverpool loads of times because he bought racehorses.
Ah, okay. So
he'd been to Aintree loads of times, like, you know. And I could tell a few stories, but it's not for hearing now. Like, I can tell a few stories with this guy, like, you know, but it was fantastic until my eyes been opening again, you know, because next door neighbours with the Bee Gees, it was absolutely, you didn't drive it, your yacht pulled to the back. It was Bal Harbour Village. It was beautiful. It was, you know, so picturesque. It was absolutely unbelievable. They didn't have the decorators in. I always remember these like folded canopies, and they just sort of partitioned parts of the house off, and it'd be completely getting redesigned as you lived in the other parts. And all I did was run them around to see racehorses. It was great. You know, fantastic. Yeah. So really enjoyed that. So that finished about 1987, 1988. And I was 25, so probably finished very young. And the reason why I just lost my appetite for it was as simple as that. When you're getting in at a fairly high standard, and your heart isn't in it, and you start to get into the ring for the wrong reason, you suddenly realise that you could potentially get hurt, you know, because your heart's just not in it, you know. And so I left that, and I went back to education, went down south, ended up getting a degree, business and economics, and I worked in London for a couple of years. But you know, after that life and then working in London, that was really, boring. Boring. That's why it was just bloody boring. Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I did, one of the things, after 2.5 years, I realised I was getting no joy. Not the joy that I'd experienced before when I was doing something. I felt like I was improving consistently all the time. I was improving what I was doing, you know, and also getting that intrinsic feeling of something that you were doing it good. And I just lost that. And then I suddenly realised in London, I was losing that experience again. So I came back up. I moved up back into the Northwest, trained to be a school teacher, trained past to be a school teacher. Didn't like teaching at all, and then that's when I trained to become an accountant and went into business. And I spent 25 years within that property business, you know, and it done well for me, and I met a lot of very incredible people through the property business, you know, and learned a whole lot from it, you know. Anyway, so I sold that in 2018. And a company in the Netherlands contacted me because they were aware of my background. Anybody's in the community who's been in Thai boxing or kickboxing will know who you are, type of thing. And they said to me, "We've got this thing. We're calling it Mind 5. Would you be interested in having a look at it?" So I went over to the Netherlands for a while to have a look at what they were doing, and I loved it, and I sort of got it straight away. So essentially what it was experiential learning. So you were learning by doing, and I think that's the best way to learn. Yeah. You know, even if I learned to be an accountant, you know, I had to sit there, and it was no good somebody show me in a book or do this or read that. I had to do it. And by doing, I learned how to put it together, you know, and that for me was always the best way. And what they were trying to do, they were trying to teach things such as energy management, focus management, and things like that. How to get someone more focused through sport. The sport is a great leveler. It does bring people together, you know. Anyway, so when I looked at this. Obviously, I was thinking about my background and what I could put into it, and I suddenly realised that there was, like most things in life, there was another door and another opportunity, and for me, it was that intrinsic value of feeling joy in what you're doing, and that comes from doing something that you're doing and you feel as if you're doing it well. So it's not about money, and it's not about getting something that value. The value is in the thing of being able to do something well. Like we were talking about the street performers before, they are so practiced of what they do, and when you listen at them, they're so skillful at what they do. They're obviously doing, and the reason that they're doing it is that intrinsic value. It's the value of doing something and finding joy in it, and that requires that what you have to do is you have to reset your subconscious mind from what you're doing, so you're able to see constant improvement in what you do. The question is how do you go about that? How do you go about setting constant improvements? Well, we've got various workshops that show you how to put that together. I did one for the British Army not too long ago, and essentially it was all about finding small improvements in what you're doing, so you can arrive at a place that you find intrinsic value from what you're doing, and that's what Paintball and Coach is about.
So is it the program from the Netherlands, or did you go over and see some of that and think, well, I can do a different twist on that and I can change it with my past experiences?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, like in anything, like you take ideas and you take the best from it, and then you also to bring the best of you into it, to add to it, to the way it expands. And I mean, when you were talking about Bruce Lee before, I mean, he was a great advocate. He changed everything about that, and he brought us his own understanding, so we can evolve and move forward. And I think that's how we grow as individuals, when we can look at something, disassemble it, but put it back together, and you feel as if it's improved. And after all, that's what it's about. If you've got the confidence in it and you feel like it's improved, then the joy is in sharing that, showing you how you felt about it, and hope people take hold of your enthusiasm and joy for what you're doing,
And I think massively, we were talking about sports, and so I've got a sporting background, and I believe anybody who's at an elite level of a sport, before you were saying, it's motivation and dedication and commitment and things like that. People think quite a lot of it's skill, and you do have to have a certain amount of skill, but there's more skillful people who don't get as far because they haven't got that dedication and commitment and motivation. And I think having you've lived an elite sports life, being fighting all around the world and things like that. And I think the discipline of fighters, especially like boxers and kickboxers, their discipline is unbelievable. But their discipline in the amateur rankings is unbelievable. So you've got lads who amateur box on it, and they go for a run at 5 o'clock every morning, and they eat correctly, and they, as you were saying, your lad, he goes and does a day's work, and then he goes and trains and things like that. And I think to take that into, I think business and sports have got massive levels. What you can learn in sport, you can take through to business and things like that, and leadership qualities and things like that. So what's the program then? How do people get involved in the program? How do they, is it for everyday folks? Is it for certain types of people, or what?
It's for people. My focus at the moment has predominantly been for the type of people who've experienced a little bit of life, and especially now with what we're going on, I think there's a lot of people who are waking up and are beginning to question the way they're living their life, and questioning from the perspective of saying to themselves, I'm getting up, I'm working hard, I'm doing this and that, but really, am I fulfilled? So what I think my role is about now is removing them from the everyday one way or another. So it may be we might do a retreat, or it may be that they come in for a couple of days and we work together. And the idea of removing them is that you're creating space in the mind for new activities and new things. Because if you're sat and you're just thinking about the problem, you're never going to do, because your mind doesn't work like that. What you need to do is you need to clear the mind, not think about the problem, but once you clear the mind, then you've got an opportunity for something to be revealed to you. Now, I can't tell you what that is. It's not for me to tell you what it is. It is for you to make the discovery, and it will be through something that is completely different than what we're doing. That something come to you and say, well, do you know what? I think my values are what on the type of person I am, I think I'd like to do it, or I think I'd get something from this. Sometimes it's not too far removed. It may be doing something a little bit differently than what they're doing at this moment in time, or it may be something that they've put to one side, always wanted to do, and then decided to revisit it. They've left it for whatever reason, and then they decided to revisit it. Because
and I think, sorry, I was going to say, John, I think you've just made a brilliant point there. Essentially, for people as you get older, because people might have a go at something when they're young and not necessarily be great at it, or life gets in the way, maybe a hobby or an activity or a love, and they stop doing it. You're never too old, are you, to pick it up? And you actually did tie, didn't you, through my company?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And then I was made up because
Thai.
You went to Thailand and he did a video of himself speaking Thai. Made up, yeah. And it's always good. See, this will be me with the drumming.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. And I think that sort of does hit the nail on the head, because I realized through my life I was dealing a lot with Thai people, but I never understood what they did. I'd just been lazy. And secondly, as you get older, you will know yourself, is that to learn a new language as you get older, because you're exercising your mind.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so important, and it makes me have to think about what I'm doing rather than sort of just sit down and vegetate in front of a TV.
Yeah, definitely. So Sandra and I are all about movement and education, so we believe that, massively. Sandra created their business around, learning languages through movement and not being a traditional classroom. And then, with
I've seen that, and I love what Sandra, because you had those balls, didn't you, Sandra? And the kids were throwing things, so they were responding to things quickly, and to where they go. And isn't it amazing when we think about it? We can't do it, but when the body just responds, and that's how it educates the mind. Because if we're so practiced at it, the body will educate the mind. And the way I often prove this is that I may be sitting in front of a client, and I say, well, it's very hard to organize the mind or to switch it off. And the example I give, I might turn around and say to Helen, I don't want you to think about the number 5. Whatever you do, I don't want you to think about the number 5. Promise me now you won't think. And of course, what does your mind do? You think about the number 5, and you think you've maybe painted it a certain colour. It's all there. And then if I said to you, use your right index finger and touch your nose, you'll just do it without thinking. And that's the whole concept, is to get people so confident that they don't have to overthink it, but they will respond. It is there. It's in the subconscious. It's when we have to stop thinking and try and connect with it and then move forward. The time's gone. But if we become so practiced in what we do that it's in the subconscious mind and we're just responding, whatever that is. I mean, there's been such a big thing lately with, I'm sure you don't mind me mentioning it, but obviously knives in the city. It's such a big thing.
It's very important,
Yeah, and what happened to that poor girl? It's an absolute tragedy, isn't it? All around for everybody that's sort of involved, And but there are things that can be done. We're not talking about confronting a situation, but we can educate so the body just responds. And what I mean by educate, we can control our environment and we can control the language and our body language. We can look defeated by the way we hold our body. And don't get me wrong, I'm no hero. If someone came at me, I'd be the first to run away as fast as I can do, But you know what? It's having the confidence to know when to do it. And it's also having the confidence to be able to focus on your breathing. I know it sounds stupid. The trouble of it is, it's about this overthinking and you become powerless because you can't move because you're so terrified. But if you've been trained to know how to control your breathing so you can calm yourself down, it gives you that bit of focus. Enough little focus that might be enough just to get you out of that situation.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, so as a consequence to this, not just the last one, but one a few years back, and on my beach boxing class, I'm not going to give any names, but a lady was training with us, and she'd lost her son through the same type of thing, And they did one of these classes in Crosby, so you'd probably be able to put it all together, Anyway, but it's. So we put together this 3-week course, and we were delivering it to the Sea Cadets freely. And again, it was just about body language, and it was about verbal language, and it was about how you can control the environment, and also understanding about the way somebody stands sort of gives away certain things. And if that only gives you that second, but you can observe and get away. And that's what it's about. So it's not about confrontation.
No.
It's using things that you can successfully do to try and avoid the confrontation.
Yeah. So when you're training, I've heard you speaking about adults and now the Sea Cadets. Do you have a program for young people, or is it adults that you tend to teach, or is it a mixture?
Well, it depends on the type of course that we're going to deliver. I mean, obviously, on this what I've called the knife awareness course, that's obviously being aimed at young people. And so, yeah, we've just delivered that for young people. But in other organisations, we'll often have a talk with them about what it is that they want to achieve. So with the Army, they were very interested in the flow concept, which is the flow state is, and we've all seen flow. And flow is something when somebody does a complex series of moves, but they do it in such a way that they make it look easy. And you look at that and you think, my God, that was bloody good. You look at all of them and you sit back at them because what they did was so good. And that is for someone to be in flow. And what we were looking at, because the Army was saying that they'll often find in operations, in combat operations, you will get men and women that will enter the flow state, that just be in that zone at that moment in time. And they'll be able to respond to things without having to consciously think, but subconsciously just allow it, because they're so trained. They're taking things from the performance arena from the practice arena to the performance arena.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. So to answer your question, we go into an organisation, and I would give them quite a few things that we could do for them, and it may be they might come back with a tick list and say, well, I'd be interested in that, or we'd just like to do this particular program, and we take it from there.
Yeah. I think for young people as well, to be inspired by people who've sort of been there and done it, and I think your martial arts background then really supports that. So you could go onto the streets and you'd have young lads who possibly might slightly react differently to me than they would to you if we were talking about knife crime and things like that, and you could talk about martial arts and other bits and pieces. And I think it is super important for to get out and speak to all ages and things like that, because as you were saying before, you can create the environment. You can change an environment, and we've positively changed an environment for 3 young people who are working with us.
Yeah.
And we've had them in our business for 16 weeks, possibly nearly 16 weeks, the last quarter, 16 weeks. And the change in environment from school life to business life, which would probably be tricky for a lot of young people. And they're just unbelievable, and they've just grown so much. And today, it's just amazing to watch people grow when the environment has changed. And I'm like you, John. I was trained in martial arts when I was younger. I used to run pubs, so I was taught to defend myself. And the guy who trained me, he went, "You run as fast as you can, Hell." He goes, "You get out of there as fast." And he was like, "You wouldn't want to look sideways."
I agree with that completely.
And he was like,
on that point you mentioned there with these 3 kids that you're taking on board, you help turning everything around. The value for that for you it's brilliant, isn't it? You know, because you feel as if you really help somebody. That's exactly the type of thing. You know, money doesn't come into this, does it? What it is that you've been able to give something and turn it around. You know? And when you see somebody that's taking that information and being able to use it and then move themselves forward, it's a result.
And you know what, John, as well, they're bringing a lot to the table.
I should imagine they
you know
are.
What? And, you know, they're bringing a lot, and they're doing some great things, and they have great ideas as well, you know. So
and they changed the dynamics, don't they? They changed the dynamics because they've got a different outlook than we have, and we might look at something, I think, oh, you know, and they go, blah, 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 and you go, and next thing it's Googled and it's done, and you know,
I've been there. You're very true. You know, what you're saying is so true, and all of them, they'll say something you've not even thought about it, like you know, and they've done it, and it's been faster and it's been better in many respects, you know. And that's just increasing somebody's confidence, you know. So
of course,
good on you for taking that time out and being prepared to do it, you know.
Yeah, we love having them in the office, don't we?
Honestly, they're just brilliant. They're really good, and it's very rewarding to see people just come on like that. And you want to see the TikTok videos we've got now. So.
Are you doing one of those dances then? Are you all together doing one of those
I want to do the dance. Nobody's with me on the dance.
Because the thing you were saying before, John, about what we do with the balls that's interactive, that's what Helen and I do. That's our IP business and everything. But one of the things you were making about movement, do you remember when you were doing the numbers in Thai? And we had the Thai tutor there, and as you did each 10, and I said, right, because I was explaining to her how to do the method. So I said, he has to stand up and do it and then sit down. And with one of them, she didn't get you to stand up. And afterwards, and when you were doing it back, your retention on those 10 wasn't as good as all the others. And I thought, it's absolute proof that when you're moving, your mental retention is massively improved. It's just...
I agree 100%.
You know, I'll harp on about it forever, won't I? But you know, it's just absolutely proven that people need to move when they learn as well. You know,
well, we've got bodies. You know, why we can't use them? We're forced to sit down. I'll never understand. And of course, you know, also the great John Haynes was such an advocate of it, wasn't he? You know, of getting and moving. So he called it accelerated learning. You know, and again, I thought, brilliant.
But I think you were saying before about the impact on the person, you know, to make these slight changes, to make these improvements, and to go and do something, you know, in a great way. It has the impact on the person, you know, so that they can have a more fulfilled life themselves. And I think by having a fulfilled life, it's the impact on others who are around them. So it could be like if you're going into a business, it could be where colleagues then see the difference and think, you know, they're pretty chilled now, whereas before they weren't, or, you know, they've put some particular strategies into place, and, you know, we're more focused and we're more driven and we can achieve our goals, whatever. In the home life, they might be, you know, a little bit more relaxed or a bit more nicer to live with, possibly. So it's not just the impact on the individual, it's the impact on, and you know, we do a thing, social impact. Yeah, and it's your social impact. By you creating this course for these people to do these things, what's the social impact of that? And it's sort of like that spider's web, isn't it, which spreads out and spreads out.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. It's like that, you know, drop a pebble in and the ripple gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, and that does happen. I mean, you've got to live in proof of it now as you watch people. One of the things, you know, I sort of step back into this because when I trained to be an accountant, I always remembered standing in a pub one day with a new client I was meeting, and then I hadn't seen this guy for a while. Like, and he comes up to me, he's got his guard up, and he's doing all this, and the client sort of looking at me, trying to put the two things together, you know. And although I kept training, I never really, you know, I wasn't going out saying what I was doing, and it sort of left it sort of go by and step to one side, you know. But now the time has been right for me. It's almost like come back to full circle, and because of for the very reason what you're saying, it's almost like you've got this library of information, and if you're not willing to share it, then nobody's going to learn from your experience, and it's just a wasted library. It's gone because you've never bothered to share it. And when I started doing it and did a few postings, I've got students that I taught 30 years ago contacting me and telling me the impact that I was having on their, the positive impact. Yeah, it has been lovely, you know, listening to what they've said, and they've said the way they've used it within their lives, you know. And again, you know, they come up with very innovative things, you know. So it's the thought of sharing what you're doing and letting people embrace it and get the confidence and then move forward with it. You know,
it's powerful. It's amazing. Yeah, it is. It's powerful. So how do people contact you, John? How do people find out a little bit more about what you do? We'll just put it in the chat bar, you see, and we can just let people...
Yeah, put it in the chat bar. And what I'll do is I'll also put... what I'll say for people through Success in the City, if you're running a voluntary group, if you're got some type of charitable organisation where you're dealing with young people and you'd like access to this particular, because we've got an online course for people that come through Success in the City and they've got a voluntary group or a charity group, I'll just give them the access to it. So they
John, thank you so much. That's a little Christmas present, isn't it?
It's a little Christmas present, yeah, absolutely. So I'll put that link in there. Just message me, let me know a little bit about your organisation, and I'll send you some access codes.
Amazing. So what are we going to just put www.
Pain Point Coach.
Are you putting that on now, Hal, or do you want me to?
Pain Point Coach.
.uk.
Cool. Cool, I've put that in. So Susie's still listening in. On Sandra, we both put in the same time. John and Jeff trained me in jiu-jitsu in Ormskirk as a kid on a Monday night, and I remember thinking, wow, I want to be like them. Crack a little memory for me being a kid and being influenced in a positive way. Our very own Bruce Lee's of our family.
Isn't that lovely? I never knew you were related. Hey, that's just
yeah, it goes back through, you know, but you know, I always remember as Susie, she'll come back, I'll say this now, she'll probably tell us now, you know, but she was like a lot of families, you just get it and you move away, you come back and everything, you know. And I remember her dad used to take me swimming and then to pick me up and he'd drop me around and then he'd go back home. And I always remember Susie very small, you know. Now all of a sudden she turned up when she was about 16. And she was gorgeous, like, you know, she'll kill me for saying this.
She's gorgeous.
She was gorgeous, this 16-year-old, like, that was full of life, you know. I must remember, I remember sort of bumping into it again, like, you know, she was so full of life. And I think that's the thing, you know, if you've got someone that's so young and so full of life, and you're able to help that move forward and carry on. Because Susie does a lot of great work herself.
Doing amazing work.
We've had him and our for others on here. We've had Jill and Kevin on. And I've seen the summit. She's just, what they do is amazing. The work they're doing in the city at grassroots level is phenomenal. It really is.
And she's the right personality for it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. So are you still training, John? You're still training?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still moving around. I have this joke, and I even say to my lad, everyone needs a Bob in their life, because I've trained with Bob for the last 30 years, and God knows what we must like. I mean, I'm 58 now, and Bob's 68. You know, he's 10 years older than me. You know, but we still do the pad work and things like that. We still move around. The fact of the matter is, Helen, is that, you know, I tried to take up golf. And I couldn't take it seriously, you know. And it's just not happened for me, you know. But I going back to that, I still enjoy doing it, you know. And that's the thing, you know. I'm just enjoy doing this. And I think what's made me seeing my son train for the fight, you know, I wanted to train with my son, and then going back to Bangkok and training with the guy who taught me, and we were training together. In there together, like, I mean, just great, you know. Hopefully in time he'll also treasure that memory, because
you need to make a movie of that.
So do you know what, John, you've had to condense everything in our little show, but I've known you through networking that for some time, and some of the stories you are a brilliant raconteur when you're not you've got time, And some of your stories are just incredible, inspiring, and he's got some fantastic.
What's boxing on the beach?
Beach boxing, that came about because of the pandemic, and everyone was stuck in their houses, and I thought to myself, well, how am I going to go out to people and get them moving? And that's exactly how it happened. I love the beach, and one of the girls called Karen, she came up with this great saying. She said to me, John, she said you should live every day as if you're on holiday. I thought, God, I love that. I don't know about you. When I'm on the beach or I'm away somewhere, the thoughts of just having a cup of coffee and watching the world go by. But if I've done like a yoga session or I've done like a bit of pad weight, I'm not killing myself, but I'm moving and keeping physical. I've done it for an hour, and then maybe have a quick swim, and then just go and sit down on the beach and have a cup of coffee and watch the world go by. It doesn't get much better than that, does it? No. And even though, because we do it in New Brighton and Crosby, and it really is, it's free. People just turn up and go. It's not about it's not about teaching me to be kickboxing. It's just about movement. It's getting your body moving. And everyone that says to me, who's had a go, they've loved this, and especially when it was warmer. I mean, it's kind of a bit colder now, isn't it? I've got a couple of diehards. I think it could be. We could have a grade 5 storm out there, but these guys still on the turn up, but it motivates me. It motivates me, and it's got me moving again. And I'm just glad, because I can feel my being subtle again, being able to stretch, being flexible again, working on my flexibility. And it's so important as you get older, retaining that kind of mobility.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as old as I am, I can still kick, and God knows what I feel like when I lose that ability, But
you won't lose it. You won't lose it because you keep on using it. So is that still going ahead? Is it the beach box?
It's still going ahead.
What time?
It's on a Friday morning in New Brighton. Again, I'll put a link in the bottom. A Friday morning starts at 7:15 in the morning, so it is an early start, Yeah. And then on a Sunday, we were doing it on the Crosby, I should say. We were doing it on a Tuesday morning, but I was asked to do it on the Sunday because they didn't like the dark mornings. So I moved it to a Sunday at 12:30, just during the winter. Okay. It's been on the Sunday at 12:30.
I think I'll be seeing you there on a Sunday then.
Yeah, just turn up. Go
down to Fletcher's for a cup of tea.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, that's all it's about.
I like early morning training. Early morning for me,
John. Helen's sessions are 6:30 in the morning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I went on Tuesday, and I was like, and I'm semi-conscious at that time, and you have to do it with a hat on, and because it's that cold. Yeah, and she does that constantly.
Are you outside, Helen? Are you doing it outside?
Well, it's sort of covered at the moment. It's covered, so if it rained, we'd be dry. But I like being outside.
What is it you're doing?
So we do circuits. We do a circuit. I don't tell you what you do until you get there in the day.
I think that's great. I think that's great, because if you become expecting the same thing all the time, it becomes monotonous.
You don't know, it's terrifying. And she goes, we're doing Tabata today, and you're like, you have the weight belts and
Anyway, the time has whizzed, but we've still got 2 things to ask you, John. We need a positive challenge that people can. So some of our positive challenges have been like baking, knocking on your neighbour and making sure they're okay. Last year we were writing Christmas cards to care homes, to a positive challenge that people can go away and just do one little thing slightly different. So what's your positive challenge for us for this?
My positive challenge would be for someone to reflect on the way that they're living their life at those moments in time, and just to ask themselves the question that, are they happy with what they're doing? And if they're not, then don't sit and think about it. It's the worst thing you can do. As cold as it is, go for a walk in the nature, as you say, in the countryside, or wherever you can go to a park, and walk. And then really start to think about what it is that you would like to do. And so when the new year comes, you're in a better place to start making the positive changes you want to make in your life.
Brilliant.
Amazing. I love that. That's my big philosophy. I do that every day. Des Flanagan's listening, our gorgeous Des, and he says, interesting guy, great show. And so we've got 15 seconds, John. So we're going to ask you to close the show with your mantra that you live by, or a little positive, something that we can leave the show with.
There's always room for one more whiskey.
Yes, nice. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody. Massive thank you to you, Sandra. Thanks, John, for giving your time with us today.
Thank you so much.
Wish everybody a massive Merry Christmas, and we'll see you all next week for our reflecting show. So thanks, and have a great Christmas, everybody. And I'm just